They began during my teenage years. I basically started to experience sleep paralysis. Have you ever heard that or experienced it? It's basically you wake up in the middle of the night and it's like you can feel your room. I mean, you can see your room at night, but you can't move your body. And sometimes you feel like some heaviness on top of you as if somebody's like sitting on top of you. And sometimes you hear noises. And so normally you struggle to move and you can't move. And so people become anxious and it's a very scary sensation, right? So I began experiencing this and until, I mean, it went on for years, right? Maybe it would happen a few times per year, I would say. And then I took a trip and I slept in a room with a group of friends. And in the middle of the night, the same thing happened. I couldn't move and I started to struggle and mumble. And so when I woke up, one of my friends told me that she heard me mumbling and she wanted to find out what it was. And I said that I was struggling with sleep paralysis. And then she said, well, you know, that used to happen to me. And that's why I don't sleep facing up anymore. You know, she didn't sleep on her back anymore because of that. And that she believed that it was what people called astral projection. And so the moment she said that, I was like, you know, I was pretty open to everything that was metaphysical, and I've heard about astral projection, but you know, I guess I didn't have enough resources or information. And when she said that, I was like, wow, what if she's right? What if my soul wants to get out of my physical body? That seems interesting. So I started to research, and back then we didn't have much information in the over the internet in Spanish, but I could speak English. So that's when I found like this esoteric group. You know, it's the esoterics. It's a word that is not popular anymore, but it has to do with the mystics, with ancient knowledge that is secret and reserved for only a few. And that's where I found what astral projection was. That's where I found that the sleep paralysis could be part of it, not necessarily, but it could be part of it. And I learned a technique to be able to control it and to not only have the sleep paralysis, but to actually detach myself from my physical body. So the moment I tried it, the first night that I tried it, I was able to leave my body consciously. And it was the first time in my life that I tried something metaphysical, you know, because I even had a Ouija board, you know, when I was a kid, and I couldn't make the Ouija board work, right? So I wanted to do magic. I wanted to do something that was like out of this world. And for the very first time, this actually worked. I was able to like have this experience and really realize that, yeah, I was out. I was out of my physical body. And from that moment on, I kept studying different techniques, and I kept practicing every night. And every night I could leave my physical body. At the beginning, it was a bit scary because I didn't know what to expect. But then I started to master the skill, and I started to realize that actually we all leave our physical bodies when we sleep. We all do. The difference is that this ability that we call astral projection means that we can do it consciously, because even though we all leave our physical bodies, we don't do it consciously. So astral projection changes that.
Wow. So the first time you did it consciously, where did you go? Like, do you remember the experience that you had?
Yeah, the first time that I did it consciously was like an initiation. It felt like an initiation. Basically, I started doing the mantra exercises. I mean, there are different techniques, but the ones that I work with mostly involve mantras, which are these powerful words. They are from Sanskrit literature, and they activate certain effects on the chakras, on the energy centers of the physical body. So it's like a key. You know, they activate these codes that make it easily to leave your body consciously. So I practiced this mantra, and I started feeling like this tingling sensation on my body, all over my body. And I started feeling sort of like energy, you know? But then I fell asleep. Um, and, you know, when you fall asleep, I blacked out maybe for a few seconds. And then I started dreaming, and I dreamt that I was a kid, and I was in a park playing with my brother, and my brother was also a kid, and he was holding a wand, like a wizard's wand, right? And I didn't know what it was. I was like, "What are you playing with?" And he showed me, and he handed it over to me, and I think he said something like, "It's now yours," or something like that. And the moment I grabbed it, I began feeling like I was being shot into space, like I was a rocket, you know. And so I was like in the dream, and then suddenly I woke up, and I was on the ceiling, floating on the ceiling, and I could see my physical body down there sleeping, and I was just floating, and I was like, "Wow, I did it!" Right? And so I was like really excited, and I tried to leave the room through the window because you know I instantly knew that I was floating, right? So I went to the window, and I touched the glass, and I could feel the cold glass, and I tried to wake through to pass through, and then I felt like a shock, and that moment I was back in my body. I was back in my physical body, as if I just suddenly woke up. But it wasn't, of course, I never thought it was like a dream or I imagined it. I really thought I was out. And from that moment on, even though maybe I was out for a few seconds, I knew that I did it. And I was so excited about that. And I wanted to keep on doing it and see how far I could get.
Yeah. And that's been quite a while ago, right? Like many years ago. So you've been practicing at this skill and you've been getting better at it. Did you have any particular experiences that come to mind as to, you know, that you remember as being remarkable?
Oh, I have so many, like so many, so many. Um, but I can give you one example. I mean, in my books, I talk about many of these experiences. Uh, but I'm gonna tell you the one that is like my favorite one. I was you know I had a spiritual guide that I met also by doing astral traveling, right? Astral projection. And so I used to be part of this spiritual community. And I told the master, his name is Dharmapa. I told Master Dharmapa, why don't we do a collective practice for astral projection? And so we set up this collective practice in a temple that we have in Mexico. We built that temple. It's a temple that is like half of it is underground and the other half is like above the ground. So it gets energies from the ground and from the sky. It was something that we did with we planned it with sacred geometry. And so in this place, it has like these very powerful energies that help you to do anything. And so that was the place where we set up everything for the collective astral projection practice. We brought mattresses, we laid them down there at the temple, and so we started doing our practices. And so in the middle of the night, I was able to leave my body, to astral project, and I met the master in the middle of the temple. And it was incredible because the moment I left my body, I started to look for the master because he said, "I'm going to be waiting for you at the center of the temple." So I started running because suddenly the temple in the astral world was like, I don't know, more than 10 times the size, or it was huge, right? So I started running inside the temple until I met him at the center. And then I was like, "Master, I'm here. Please show me what you wanted to show me." And then he pointed out to some curtains that we had in the altar, right? and suddenly these curtains, they open up as if I were watching a play. You know, they don't have that function. We don't have a stage over there or anything. But in the astral world, they suddenly opened. And the moment they opened, I saw a Gothic cathedral, and suddenly I was immersed into an experience, a past life experience, because you can see those things. You can see past lives if you access the Akashic records in the astral plane. And the Akashic records are this library that stores all of the information from the past, the present, and the future. And so I saw the Gothic cathedral, and suddenly I saw that there was a man standing in front of it, and he was dressed with like clothes from the 17th or the 18th century, right? I mean, from a time where they didn't even have guns yet. And so I realized I was in Italy. The man was speaking in Italian. I had studied Italian. I reached an advanced level, but that was long ago, and I was beginning to lose my ability to speak Italian, because if you don't speak it, then, you know. But that's the thing. In the astral world, you can speak with anybody. It doesn't matter the language. I could speak Dutch to you, and the moment you speak to me, I will listen to your voice in my native Spanish or in English, because I also speak very good English, and I can speak to you in Spanish or in English, and you will hear it in Dutch. It's telepathy. That's the way communication works in the astral world. So I saw this character, and I asked him what was going on, and he told me it was a wedding, like a royal wedding. And so I watched as a group of people arrived, knights. They were Italian knights on horses, and they were dressed in blue, and they had this chest plate armor that had I think it was I don't know, it was a cross, but I don't know if it was blue or red. I don't remember right now. I think it was blue. The rest of the clothes were blue, but it was a chest plate armor. And I saw the king of that region, of that kingdom, and I saw like this guy who, I don't know if he was he was a prince. I didn't know if he was like the prince that was gonna get married or the brother. But I witnessed the whole thing. Like I didn't see the bride. I just saw that they were all arriving, and all of a sudden I was in another room. Like I was taken suddenly into another room, and I saw people with ink and feathers, like the way they used to have before, and they were signing documents, very busy. And I stood there like watching them for like 10 minutes, and I was just observing them. And suddenly I saw this lady arriving, and she started like yelling in Italian. It was like she was like a family member, and she was like, "Hey, come stai?" Like very excited. And then she hugged me, and the moment she hugged me, I woke up, right? And so then we talked about the experience. I talked about the experience with my spiritual guide, and he told me that I was watching a past life where I was getting married, and I was part of a royalty in some kingdom in the north of Italy, close to Milan, I think he said. And so I watched it, and it was a past life experience. But not only it was like very realistic, it was like it didn't seem like a dream. It was more realistic than this, like because on top of seeing everything very real, I was seeing auras on the buildings, on the people. It was something I would call it more than 3D. It was like 4D, and it was incredible. And that's just one of, I don't know, hundreds of experiences that I've had, but that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love it. So that was your wedding?
Yeah, apparently.
Wow, amazing. And
in a past life.
Did you ever find out more about who you were in that life, or what your purpose was?
Yeah, I've been researching about that, And there are a lot of things that I'm researching. I visited those places uh, physically. I took a trip to those places. But there are so many things that are like personal that I can't share. That was just one of different lifetimes, and I've seen other lifetimes or scenes of other previous lives, past lives, and in some of them I was an important person. In some others I was a normal person. In some of these lives I had a mission. I mean, in all of these lives I had a mission, different missions, right? And we all do. And the thing is that people who experience astral projection or that have some ability with metaphysical are people that in previous existences were involved in mystic practices. Like they studied all of this, so it all comes back, right? So seeing these past lives, it's easier if you've been practicing these teachings in previous lives. But many people who feel drawn to these practices, like astral projection, they soon find out that they have the ability because they practiced it in previous lives. And that's why they feel drawn to study these arts.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like the more it must feel familiar, right? Like if you've done or been somewhere in a past life, like when you experience it now, it must feel familiar, even though you know you haven't had the experience before, but it sort of feels like you have had it.
Yes, and then your intuition starts to increase, right? Like there were people who were like my brothers in previous lives, and suddenly I realized that people that I knew, like neighbors or friends in this life, were actually my brothers in past lives. I started getting those thoughts like very strong. This intuition is very strong, um, and then sometimes things happen, things that come to act as confirmation, right? Like the other day, I was telling my partner um, about a friend who was a brother in my previous life, and I was talking about this friend, and all of a sudden, I just glimpsed on Facebook, and I saw that he was posting something, and this friend, we hadn't talked like maybe almost 10 years. And at that moment, he was posting something, and he was in the same town at the same time that I was visiting. Things like that, confirmations.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, since you've been practicing this quite a few years now, what have you learned? How has it changed your life?
Wow, it changed my life in so many ways because um, when I was consciously beginning to astral project, to astral travel, I was in university, right? And so the moment I graduated, I started working professionally. And the moment I started working professionally, I just felt that it didn't make any sense because I had been astral traveling for years, and I just discovered that the possibilities were endless. Like, first of all, I think a lot of people are not sure about what happens when you die, right? Like what's after death. And astral projection is related to that because the astral plane is the place where we can astral travel, but it's also the place we can where we have the dreams, where we dream, and that's also the place where dead people go to, right? So you realize that it's actually a better life, like a better plane of existence, because there are less rules, there are less laws, right? Like the law of gravity, just to give you an example. It's something that because of that we can't move as easily, from one place to another in this physical world. We need vehicles, we need to spend money, all of that. In the astral world, you can levitate, You can fly very fast. You can also teleport. You also don't need to eat, right? Things like that. So I started realizing this, and I also started to discover how the law of attraction worked, how your thoughts become reality, because in the astral world, the things that you think, they become reality instantly, right? And the only obstacle is your mind. Like if you doubt it, also you don't manifest as easily in the astral world. But then I started to experiment in this physical world, how to materialize things, and I started seeing how things work, because you can also materialize things in this three-dimensional plane with your thoughts, but it takes longer. And it's a different process, right? Like the energy that your thoughts have, they have to become like a physical substance, either through money or effort or something like that. And so one thing leads to another, because we also have time. So you have to like go from point A to point B, and those things don't exist in the astral world. So I started seeing all of these things to understand how the different planes of existence worked. And I discovered that we totally, at some point, we made mistakes, or we screwed up, because we live in this society which, everything is so difficult, and we need to make ends meet, and everything is like, it could be so much better. So realizing this, I just couldn't hold like a normal job, because I felt it was meaningless. I mean, I was traveling to wherever I wanted in the astral plane. I was discovering, I was traveling even to other planets. I was discovering the meaning of life, and I was seeing the past and the future. And so then I was working in an office, and I was like, okay, I don't feel my soul came to this world to do this, right? And so it started becoming more difficult, until I started to dedicate myself almost fully at astral projection. And that's why I started to write my books, and I started to create my course, because I was like, okay, people, this is what we need to do. We need to focus on this, on making life better and exploring other realities, because we all have that capability. And so that became my life's purpose. And I understood that it was actually my life purpose. My experiences in the astral plane revealed that to me.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I can definitely understand, I think, once you become a bit more spiritual or in touch with what else is out there, it just becomes increasingly difficult to take, the rules of our society at face value. So having a job, having a normal 9 to 5, and all of those things start to become a bit more trivial and unimportant when you're aware of, your soul and what it wants and your purpose. Yeah, I can definitely see the struggle.
Yes, that's how I felt.
So you've also started teaching this to people. So why is it important that people do it? What kind of resolution or information do they get from doing astral projection?
Yes, so what happened is that when I started to astral travel at the beginning, that's sort of when the movie the Matrix trilogy was playing on theaters. And I also felt there was a connection with that, because in the films, you wake up from the machine world into the real world, and I started to think that it was an analogy to what I was experiencing, right? Like the concept of awakening. Although the difference is that the astral plane is not like Zion, that is like this destroyed world. It's actually a much better world. But I started to see these analogies, and I started feeling lonely. I started feeling like not many people were experiencing this. And back then, a lot of people were telling me you're imagining this, or you're crazy. But then, I would look at how people lived, and I started to feel kind of like their suffering, which was sort of like the suffering that I also had. Like we all do. We all have this suffering. But at the same time, I started to feel like I was in some sort of film. Like nothing was so real. Like life wasn't to be taken so serious in a way. And I believe this is what religions are trying to show us, right? Uh, I mean, everything has been corrupted, of course. Um, but the essence of religions is to teach you that there is a reality out there that is it's superior. So um, I first started to write my books. I first wrote a book about astral projection. It's called Out of Body Experiences, a practical guide to astral projection. And I was just like, I needed to get it off my chest. I needed to put everything into a book to tell the world about this, because not many people knew about this. And I wish that when I was younger, I had access to this information, right? Because when I was a kid, I really wanted to experience all of this. And so I brought my first book, and then I started getting a very positive response. People started to write to me. People started saying that I changed their lives. People were grateful, and I was like, whoa, there's something that, that's when I started to feel that it was my mission. And so now it's been almost 20 years since I started astral projecting, more than 20 years. And the world has changed so much. I feel people are being more drawn to spirituality, to all of these subjects. Now I've met a lot of people who are talking about how we're going to transcend this plane of existence into a better plane of existence, how extraterrestrials are assisting us. These topics are becoming popular again and very powerful. And so that's when I knew that this was actually like a prophecy that people were going to become interested on these topics. And it's happening, and I see it that it's happening every time more. So I'm here also to help them, to guide them, to say, hey, you want to experience this leap in consciousness? Do you want to experience this transcendence in consciousness? Do you want to experience something that is different, that will make you change your mind, and that will improve your life? Because my life has improved so much. Like, I basically, every day I wake up at whatever time that I want. If I want to work, I work. If I don't want to work, I work. Things have been adjusting. Like, my life has been sort of responding to the way I want to live my life. I don't have a boss. And I think all of these changes have happened just because I connected to the freedom of experiencing the astral plane, and I discovered my mission was to guide others. And I think because of that, life has been adjusting to that purpose. And that's why I want everybody to experience the same, because I know that it's not good to have like a boss, to go to work from 9 to 5, to stay extra hours, to have these little vacations. I think that all of that is not life. I mean, I think life could be so much better.
For sure. And that's very powerful, what you just said. So I wanted to go back to where you were talking about our dreams, because you said our dreams come from the astral space. So from what I've heard, there's two schools of thoughts on dreams. The first one saying it's just chemicals that your brain makes up, just super random, they mean nothing. And the other one says like, no, there's a meaning, there's a reason behind why you dream what you dream. So what's your stance on dreams?
Well, first of all, I believe when scientists say that it's just a chemical, reactions and things like that, I mean, in a way, they are trying to explain something through how we call it, the scientific method. And the scientific method has its rules, and well, simply there are so many things that science can't explain, because it's just a method. It's just like you can also try to explain reality through mathematics. There are like an infinite way of explaining like the reality phenomenon, right? And so science is very limited in that sense. It's true that, of course, there are chemical changes in your mind, of course, There are so many ways that can be translated into science too. But I feel that dreams are like a part of reality that is like a counterbalance, right? Because we have the let's say the conscious or the brain waves that we have during the day, and then we also have the subconscious and different brain waves that happen during the dreams, right? And with the two, we create a balance, right? And with this balance, that's how you can materialize, that's how you can become a creator, because that's the ability that humans have that animals don't have, which is that you can become a creator, right? You can control this reality, but you need to find the balance between the two. So dreams try to find that balance. They try to get you to discover that balance. So I always advise people to take notes of their dreams, to write them down, because they are trying to tell them stuff about themselves, about their traumas, about their problems, about how to solve them, how to balance them. I've had so many teachings from my dreams, and I've understood like, oh, I'm dreaming this because I feel stuck, or I'm dreaming this because, for instance, something that happens to me. Sometimes I start dreaming that I'm driving a car, and the car is out of control, or I crash and things like that. And that I wake up, and it means that I'm not in control of my physical body, because my body is a vehicle, just like the car, and it represents that maybe I'm going through emotional struggles, and so I'm not controlling the vehicle, right? So then I dream that, and it helps me. Okay, I need to meditate. I need to calm down. I need to process this. So it's a system of how do you call it? It explains to you many changes that you need to do, but also dreams are so real because you can have dreams that can show you the future. I've had so many dreams that have shown me the future, and the future has happened just like the dream taught me, right? And so the reason why that happens is because dreams, they also happen in the astral plane, which is the fifth dimension. We are in the third dimension, and the astral plane and dreams happen in the fifth dimension. And so in this dimension, time does not exist. And so because time does not exist, that's how you can see things from the future. So yeah, I believe dreams are also a reality. They are not just like, oh, my mind created this. I mean, yes, your mind manifests in a way because it's a system of retro future, but they are part of reality. I feel the dream dimension is just a reality as this one, just with different rules.
You mentioned having been able to see parts of your future in your dreams. Is there a way that you can control it, or an intention you can set in order to see the future when you dream?
Yes, there are ways. There are techniques, because the whole skill of astral projection, there are two ways to enter the astral plane. Like I said, we all do. When we go to sleep, we all leave our physical bodies in something called the astral body, but we're just not conscious about it. And so the ability to astral project means that you can either be present, be conscious of the moment when your astral body is detaching from your physical body, and this is what we call the direct transition. And the other way is through lucid dreaming, which means that you're dreaming and suddenly you become lucid. You suddenly realize that you're dreaming, and you become conscious in your dream, and you're like, okay, I'm dreaming. And in both ways, you enter the astral plane, right? And so once you are conscious, either in your dream or during a direct transition into the astral plane, there are techniques that I actually teach in my course that can help you to travel to the past and to the future. Because over there, like I said, in the astral plane, time does not exist. So, of course, you need to practice it. It's not so simple like, oh, I know the technique is going to work the first time. Maybe for some people will. Maybe for some other people will take more time. It doesn't work for me every single time, but they have worked for me. And sometimes it's connected to the degree of consciousness that you are awakening. Like the more conscious you are about your decisions during the day, about your thoughts, about your actions, the more power you gain in the astral plane. So that's how you gain more power in the astral plane to do whatever you want. You need to practice meditation. You need to control your thoughts, control your emotions, be conscious about your whole life. And that grants you abilities in the astral world.
Oh, amazing. So how can people connect with you and with your work? You mentioned a course as well. So where can we find it?
Yeah, you can look for my website, escapefromthematrix.com. And on my website, I have information about my book, about my course. I'm also going to release an audiobook soon, so people can practice on the go. And I'm there to help everybody to be able to leave their physical body. So that's why I have written these books and I have created this course with the purpose of helping everyone to experience this reality, the astral reality.